This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for October 16th, 10:30 a.m. Here's a cam shot from Cancun, Mexico. We have a very strong fetch of wind coming on the east coast of Cancun, Mexico. This is from the Beach Palace right on the Atlantic side, and there's a lot of wind action coming in there as there's Invest 95L roaming around in the area. It's an broad area of low pressure, providing very gusty winds along the northeast coast of the Yucatan. Now, this can be found with our current feature, which is Cancun, Mexico. On the front page of Hurricane City, scroll down to the cam shots. There's all kinds of different cam shots from Cancun and weather observations, which winds are gusting up out of the east at 25 miles an hour. So it looks like we do have an area of low pressure trying to develop down near the Yucatan. So let's examine this a little closer. Now, while I have the floater image up here, I wanted to mention that the National Hurricane Center, as of this hour, has not dispatched a hurricane hunter to investigate this system, so we're going to wait and see what happens when it gets out over open water in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Here is the floater loop, and you can see the system is broad in nature, but I believe that if there is any kind of low pressure, it's right on shore here, right near Cozumel, Cancun. And until this gets out over the open water up in here, it's not going to really have much of a chance for any kind of rapid development. But there's very warm sea surface temperatures. I'll get to that in just a minute. And the system has a little bit of a ridge of high pressure over the top of it. So this could go ahead and develop into the next named storm in the Atlantic Basin. And then this could be a potential threat to Florida in the next several days, as a cold front is going to come down and pick this up and send it off to the northeast. So we're going to talk about the models and the scenarios on that as well. But the system is getting better organized compared to the last several days. All right, let's talk about the models. Here is the Canadian version of what's going to happen here in about 5 days from now. We're going to have lingering low pressure in the western Caribbean Sea. So the Canadian is indicating this is going to stay to the south. It's not going to affect Florida at all. Let's go to the next model, the GFS. And the GFS model, all the models pretty much are showing the same thing, which is a system being dragged in a weakened state behind a cold front through South Florida or Central Florida, and then an area of low pressure lingering in the western Caribbean Sea. So this could be something to watch going into next week, not this coming week, but the week after that. There could still be low pressure lingering down there, and this is very common for this time of the year for systems to develop in the western Caribbean Sea. And there's the GFS. It does have a piece of energy from this going through South Florida and out into the Atlantic, so we'll be watching for that. Remember, a lot of my cities in my top 20 this year are from South Florida to get affected by a named storm, so we'll see what happens with this. All right, here is the NOGAPS, and again, the same thing. Keeps an area of low pressure lingering down here about 5 days in the western Caribbean Sea, and the cold front whips on through Florida without taking it off to the northeast. Now, what about the tropical models? Here is the, I believe this is the GFDL. This is the GFDL model, and this is going out about 5 days from now, and it shows a lingering area of low pressure in the western Caribbean Sea just east of Belize. So the GFDL keeps it weak and down in the Caribbean Sea. Here is the HWRF interpolated model, which is the same as the HWRF, but there's additional information put into it from other models. And this is heading towards Tampa in a weakened state here in about, this is going out about 3 or 4 days from now, having it right just west of Tampa as a weak system, showing it at around 30 miles an hour. So basically tropical depression type status. I think this could get a little stronger because it does have favorable environment right now, and it depends on how much it weakens with the wind shear. I'll get to those scenarios in a minute. Now, here are the intensity models on this system, and the the model that's showing the most intensity is the IVCN model here, getting up near 45 miles an hour in about 3 days, and then it drops off significantly. They all drop here because a cold front is going to grab this thing, and the wind shear is going to be tremendous out of the west. So whatever does develop and get grabbed by the front, it's going to get shredded pretty badly. However, with that said, if the system gathers itself pretty nicely over the next 48 hours and then gets grabbed by the cold front, a lot of times these systems can ride a cold front, and they're more resistant to wind shear because they're riding along with the shear rather than against it. So we may have very well have a organized tropical storm heading into the state of Florida somewhere over the next 3 days. But models pretty much weaken the system for the most part. Now, here is the wind shear from the University of Wisconsin, and you can see that the system is somewhat shielded by a ridge of high pressure right now over the top of it. But look over Florida, 50, 60 mile an hour wind shear, 60 knot wind shear over South Florida. So if this was to move north from where it is right now, maybe a couple hundred miles, it's going to run into a real strong wall of shear. So again, whatever happens in the next 36 to 48 hours is going to be the only window it's going to have to strengthen before the wind shear just takes over and starts annihilating the system. But again, we got to watch long term on this, because this energy could linger down in the Western Caribbean going well into next week. Here are the sea surface temperatures from the Navy, and you can see a lot of warm water in the Western Caribbean Sea. Even the loop current going up into the Gulf of Mexico here, very warm temperatures in the mid 80s. Upper 80s down here where the system is right now. It's got a lot of energy to tap into, and you can see it blowing up on the satellite picture. It's really got a lot of energy to work with here. So again, even though the cold front's coming down and the wind shear is going to increase, the system could still end up being a tropical storm despite the rough conditions. Here's the rainfall potential from the National Weather Service. And we're showing here going out to, this is going out to Tuesday, October 18th and Wednesday the 19th. And they're showing approximately a forecast of about 3 to 4 inches of rain down here in South Florida and Central Florida. So this looks like this is going to drag a lot of rain into the state. So weather is going to be at the very least gusty and windy and rainy over the state of Florida for the next several days, as whatever comes up, if it's Rena or whatever system comes up through the state, it's going to be rainy. All right, let's take a look at the water vapor loop of the entire western Atlantic basin, including the continental United States. And you can see that we have a cold front that's coming down. Let's go ahead and stop it right here. You can see the energy right here. There's an area of low pressure over Minnesota, and this is going to head down and intensify up in here, and that's going to cause the cold front to whip through and pick this system up. So that's coming. You can see it on the satellite here. But what could end up happening here is some of this energy could get lifted off, and it's going to happen so fast that there's a potential that this thing could just simply move east and linger down here in the Western Caribbean Sea. It wouldn't surprise me if that happened, and none of it gets dragged up into the state of Florida other than the cold front itself, and lingers this low pressure down in the Western Caribbean. I think we're going to be watching this system for a long time. Anyway, that's it for now. The current feature, again, is Cancun, Mexico. Keep an eye on this system. You can track everything that's going on down there in the Yucatan. And I'll be back in about 24 to 36 hours if we have a named storm or we have some changes with this system. That's it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.